Hey, how's it going? Welcome to a special video today on my channel. I was actually reached out by the great people over at Dehancer, and they gave me the ability to tell you guys a little bit about their product. Dehancer is a plugin for Davinci Resolve and a few other softwares like Premiere Pro, After Effects. The use is primarily for giving your footage a film look so that you have a nice, unique look for your short film or production. Today, I have just grabbed a couple of clips from some online resources. Before we begin, I'll just go and let you know that if you're interested in getting Dehancer, there is an affiliate link down in the description. You can click that and I'll get a small reimbursement for every single purchase that you make. Before we fully get into this, I do want to actually preface, I am not a certified color grade expert. I do mostly work in Fusion, as you may have noticed from previous works on my channel. But I do know my way around the color page, and I do know, in my opinion, what makes footage look good. This is all subjective. If you don't think this footage looks good at the end of the day, that's okay. I might even have different opinions about it in probably 10 seconds. It is just fully subjective. I'm just going to show you what the tool can do, trying to explain what it does and like the different settings, what halation is and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and go through how to use this with, I think, log footage. And then I'll also have a few examples of using just regular Rec. 709 full color as if it's coming from your phone. So let's go ahead and look at the Alexa 35mm. We hop into the color page. We can see I already have a 4-node set up. First, I'm going to show you one way to do it, and then I'll show you a different way to do it. This way of doing it is not using the color space of the camera, but just going ahead and making it Rec. 709. So let's start with putting color space transform on number 3 right here. And the number 4 is where we're going to put the Dehancer. And we'll just go ahead and disable that for right now so we don't get the weird colors. I already know from testing that this is going to come up as a Sony color space. The closest I could make it was Sony S-Log3, and then make sure it's Rec. 709 and Gamma 2.4, and that gives a pretty good look. This is pretty similar to how it was recorded in camera. I may be a little bit off. If I'm wrong about Alexa footage, then let me know. It did say it was in ProRes, but I can't find exactly how to convert it from ProRes into Rec. 709. And I just may be inexperienced. I'm not too familiar with these specific cameras. I just thought it'd be a good example to use since it was log and it is a pretty commonly used camera. So this may not look 100% correct, but right now we're just using the CST, or the color space transform, to get us into a color space that we can actually visualize and have a little bit easier time playing with. Before we re-enable the Dehancer plugin, let's go ahead and go over to node 1 and just adjust a few of the settings. Okay, this is in a pretty good space right now. It's pretty well balanced. And I have a couple of colors popped a little bit more than they were, just to give it a little bit more of a unique look, just to play with to begin with. This other node, I'm just going to actually not even use at all. You can use this for separate color changes and different uniform adjustments. But this is pretty much just my basic color adjustments and my basic lighting adjustments, just to get it to a point where it's usable. And then this other one can be for your own custom look if you're going for something like that. Now we can go ahead and hop into the effect of Dehancer. When we apply it, we'll see it comes default with a bunch of different things. So let's go ahead and disable everything we see with the enable check right here. Okay, I believe that is everything. Let's just start from the top and figure out what we want to apply to this as we go along. So we can see we're in Rec. 709 because in color space transform, we converted it to Rec. 709. That's exactly what we want. And this is if we have any serious issues with the footage beforehand. If we were to apply this and there's an issue with the exposure, you can cut down the exposure or increase it. The same thing for the temperature and tint, and then there's also some defringe settings if you're really too bothered about that. This isn't going to be a full in-depth tutorial. This is going to be mostly just a look build so you can be familiarized with the tool and with the product. This is a big difference that they've made. I watched a video about this from a different YouTuber from maybe a few months ago, and this has already changed drastically. We are able to select a bunch of what I would consider to be pretty much LUTs. They apply a LUT-like effect over your footage, making it appear like you're actually printing on that film. So we can go ahead and select like a Kodak. We can see it gives a pretty fair, dull color. We can apply this, we can scroll through it now that we've selected it once. There's a lot of black and white varieties. We'll just scroll through until we find a good one that really matches what we're going for. For this shot, maybe this one's not too bad. It does dull the colors a little bit without changing our image too much, which is pretty much what you want when you're making your image. You may want to apply this first if you're really looking to build it based off of the film image. But if you want your film image to build off of your grade, then apply this last and don't have it too heavily intensified to be like one certain way, if that makes sense. Once again, I'm not a professional. If you want to adjust the values after the fact, so up here, adjust the values before applying the film emulation, and then print, adjust the values after the film emulation. We're not going to do this. I think it looks pretty much okay. Maybe actually increase that a little bit. Maybe increase color density. Yeah, I think that looks okay. Just bringing it back up a tiny bit probably works fine. Now we get to the fun stuff. This is what you're probably going to really like, and this is what's going to really sell your look. If you look at this right now, let's go ahead and actually hide our nodes. If we look at this right now, it doesn't really sell it. We can kind of go through here. You don't see any halation. The film grain is pretty much just what comes in the camera. There's a very little bit in these corners here with some color, but right now, not too filmy, if that makes sense. What we can do is enable film grain, and if we zoom back into this area, there's a ton of film grain that as we scroll through, makes a nice movement like a film grain would. And we can adjust it with a bunch of different base types of film grain. So it's really cool if you have a certain grain in mind. Keep in mind how cameras work. ISO, the lower it is, the less grain you're going to see. And the higher it is, the more grain you're going to see, the bigger it's going to be. So it just matters on what you want your image to look like. And I think, yeah, the bigger the number is for millimeters, the smaller that grain is going to be overall. So just something to keep in mind. You can also adjust the amount. I like to maybe have it around there. And then halation also really sells it. Halation honestly sells it more than the grain does. If we look at our really bright areas up in here, we can just hit enable, and you won't be able to see it much right now. But if we go through some of these, and this is all talking about once again different types of film, and if we look around, there's not really anything that's actually too bright. So I think that's not going to affect too much. If we turn it off and on, there's going to be a little bit of change in the red, which is where the change is going to happen. Halation essentially makes it to where the brightest areas have a little bit of red leak. Bloom just intensifies the brighter areas by giving it a pop. Not necessarily by any color, like any color amount, but just overall makes it a little bit brighter around the brighter areas, making it just a little bit poppier, as if there's maybe some more light reflection happening in the lens. And a really good thing that you can also add is film damage. This really helps sell it as if you're actually recording it on actual film. You can see this occasional little spots that appear all over the place, lines, just stuff that's happening all around the screen that just helps sell that this is on genuine film. This is good if you really want something a little more old-timey feeling, but it's up to you if you really want to enable it. We'll just go and disable it for this particular look. Overscan is interesting because you might be familiar with overscan when talking about 3D, exporting 3D video or exporting for 3D video. Basically, this gives you a little bit more room on the outside of your frame. When talking about film, though, if you think about that a little bit, the outside of the film, when talking about a film camera on little film reels, the outside of the overscan of the film reel is the actual reel itself. So if we enable overscan, we get the little sidebars that it would actually be sitting on. So this is the actual film panel, and then these are the actual little bars on each side of your film. So it makes it feel a lot more like actual film, which is really cool. Even gives a little animation in this area as if you have other colors and lights peeking through as you're like projecting your film on a screen. Pretty cool. And you have a bunch of different settings for that as well. We can go and disable that. What's really cool about this too is you're actually able to export this as a LUT and reuse this in other shots. So that's super cool. That's actually awesome that you're able to do that. But pretty much, I think we're okay with our look if we just turn it off and back on. And if we actually go into our nodes and take a look at it here and turn that off, turn it back on, I think that gives a pretty good film look. You can even probably adjust a bunch of different settings. I might even change this to be something different, just because I usually like it to be a little more obvious that there's been a huge change. So I might go up here. I kind of like this look a little bit more. So there's that full screen. You can take a look at that as we scroll through. And I'll go and just play through it. This clip is going to be different, and in fact, I'm actually going to show you a different method of applying your effect to it. So we'll start by going into the clip itself and applying our adjustments in here. So let's begin with setting up the color space. We're going to do this slightly differently to where we actually can adjust the color space using the effect. So let's go ahead and make color space transform and apply that right there. Let's go ahead and do Sony S-Log3 once again and make sure that we are not taking it to Rec 709 this time. Let's actually go to Davinci Wide Gamut and Davinci Intermediate. This is actually a very common editing technique to where you take it into Davinci Wide Gamut, Davinci Intermediate. This is basically taking it from probably a smaller color space to a bigger color space to have more edits that won't break your footage quite as much. Let's go ahead and hold Alt and drag and put it onto 3. This is going to look the exact same over here, but if we just press swap, we can just do a quick test. Look at our levels down here, look at our image. Turning it off and on, we can see there's no change, so that means we are good to go. That is properly, that is the correct color space to be taking it into and out of. Let's go ahead and reset that node grade, and in fact, I'm actually going to delete that node. This is where we're going to do all of our major adjustments to the clip, so let's go ahead and take care of that. We can see that we're not editing in Rec 709, so it's a little bit harder to tell what we're actually adjusting. So let's go ahead and hop into our edit page, and real quick, let's actually add an adjustment clip from over here, an effects adjustment clip, and drag it over here. It can be as long as we want. It's fine being this long. We'll just go ahead and then choose this frame real quick. Hop back into the color page, and now if we open up clips, we can tell we're in the adjustment clip. Can I say clip a few more times? I don't know. Let's find out. Okay, let's apply the color space transform here at the end, and I'll go ahead and disable that for right now. Let's go ahead and take Dehancer Pro and place it onto here. And let's just disable all of the checkboxes once again. Okay, this is now doing absolutely nothing to our footage. Let's put this into Davinci Wide Gamut Intermediate, which it actually has a preset for. But if you wanted to choose any specific camera, you can easily do that by choosing choose camera and then choosing the vendor. So if we were to do the Sony footage, we can do A7 III, and then we can select S-Gamut 3. And if we go back to our other clip and just disable that transform, it just transforms it already and puts it into Rec 709 for us. But we don't want to do that. We want to do conversion from Wide Gamut Intermediate to give us the bigger color space. And we can kind of see it's not actually taking us back out this time. So what we do have to do is go into here and just make sure we go to Davinci Wide Gamut. If I can do that right, there we go. And then Davinci Intermediate, and then take us into Rec 709 and Gamma 2.4. Now this is properly taking us from the Sony S-Log3, taking us to Davinci Wide Gamut and then back out to Rec 709. I'll be doing videos going over this in more detail in the future, so stay tuned for that when I talk about the color page. But for right now, just keep in mind we are doing a couple of conversions that are a little bit more complex, but this is for editors who want to know, how can I use this in my actual editing flow? So let's go ahead and change our clip to be about how we want it to be. So what I've done is I've just given it a little bit of contrast with our curves, and I've also lowered saturation and slightly boosted color boost, so we can get a little bit more of a flatter image overall. So we have a little bit more to play with when we're working in our film emulation. Let's go back to our adjustment clip and let's start enabling stuff. So let's check out the film look once again. This is again my favorite profile, so we'll just go ahead and select that. We can print and maybe do a bit boost on color density. Maybe a small drop on exposure. maybe even a small boost on tonal contrast. There we go. That gives us a little bit more of a deeper look. We can re-enable our film grain, and I think we're just gonna make it maybe I think the default's just fine. I might just increase the amount just to give us a little bit more. Actually, maybe decrease that amount. That was a little bit too much. That's pretty good. Let's scroll through. Yeah, that should be just fine for what we're looking for. Now let's go and do halation. This should be a little more noticeable because of all these brighter areas up here. And we even want to check out her face because that may be a problem area. So let's go ahead and enable it, and we can see there is a lot of red introduced. Let's go ahead and look at our scopes down here. We can see even the blue is being crushed because of how much red is in the scene now. But it does add color back to skin, which is really helpful. It looks like it goes from the most red leakage down to the least. And we're talking about the no remjet. I'm thinking that actually helps even remove even more, or remove less, actually. So it's up to you. I might even go for Super 8 and just really lower this to where it's a lot less in your face. But it really helps build that look when looking at these brighter areas. And then we can enable bloom, and we can just look, everything gets so much brighter. Everything pops just a little bit more. Just really helps the look overall. If you're a professional colorist, you might even really want everything to have the exact same profile. That's up to you. If you're looking to do just a look, then do what I'm doing. It's up to you, but I think we're looking pretty good. That is going to be it for the Davinci Resolve showcase. There's a lot more to this software. There's a lot of things that I didn't even look at down here. So real quick, I'm just going to show you guys a little bit of a preview of different things you can do with other types of footage from, like, your phone, for example.
They tell me that I'm never gonna make it. They want me to do something that could make sense. They hate when I keep dreaming I'll be famous, but I don't give a fuck, I'ma keep chasing. I got all this potential that's deep inside of me, but they hate when you're successful cause they try to be. They sit there being judgmental because you.
To finish us off, Dehancer also asked me to showcase another tool. I do want to mention that they do have an iOS tool for those on Apple. So if you have an Apple phone and you really like using Dehancer for on-the-go edits, go ahead and download that, and you're able to get adjustments for film emulation right at your fingertips. But they also wanted me to showcase Dehancer Online, which is a tool anybody can use from any device at any point in time, as long as you have an internet connection. So I'm just going to pop in this JPEG from my other screen over here. You can take in any image file and just drag and drop it into there, or click it on the phone and you can actually bring it up just like you would any other sort of like search. You can get it from your files just as easy as you can from a computer. So they have a bunch of different featured ones that people like to use that they may think that are easier, that may work better on your camera or on your photo. And they have a bunch of different color films all the way down. You're able to click and drag to move around the screen, and scrolling zooms in and out. So if we want to, we can select, let's just look through them. We can zoom in a little bit, get some better looks. It does kind of crunch the look of it. No, it actually adjusts to how far in you're zoomed. That's really nice. So let's just quickly go through these and try to find something that looks really nice. I'm liking, I think actually this one right here. So we'll go and select this one. It'll make it much bigger. It'll adjust to the screen. Give it a second and it'll probably be a little bit crisper. And we can adjust the presets again. We can go back out to there, adjust the lighting. Okay, so we can adjust the exposure if we want it to be brighter or darker. I think maybe right around this area is just fine. We can adjust our color. We can, looks like more blue to more orange. So it's all up to how you'd like to do it. Makes it really easy to adjust. You don't even have to do any sliders. You just click a couple of buttons, look at a few previews, and it's ready to go. You can even then, now we have some sliders so we can adjust the grain, the bloom, and the halation. If we want to just preview side by side, we can click on the original, see what it looked like to begin with, and turn it back off and see what it looks like now. Pretty cool. Make it bigger, make it smaller, adjust different settings like exposure and all your different basic stuff like that. Actually really helpful, I gotta say. When I first heard about this, I wasn't too sure about it. an online tool that allows you to adjust your photos to make it look like a film emulation. I thought that'd be really difficult, really complicated to use, but this makes it super easy and really user-friendly for anybody to use. Check out Dehancer.com to see more about the Dehancer plugin. And don't forget to check out the link down in the description to help the channel out by getting a 10% off discount, and 10% of that goes back to me to help out the channel make cool videos like this and other tutorial videos. So if you like the video, make sure to like and subscribe, and check out Dehancer today.